It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Curacao. Part 2, the selection. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 30 on the players of the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. This episode is the second part of our coverage of Curaçao's players. The final roster is released and we are looking at Curacao selections. In part 1, we compiled a list of players and their likelihood of reaching the final squad. That was based mostly on their participation since the time of the 2023 Gold Cup. We considered a few other factors as well. And in part 1, we gave some career information and biographical information on the main players. In part 2 here, our focus is the final squad. The mediacast is divided into 3 sections. Section 1 is some preliminary information on the team. We do repeat some of what we said in part 1, but a bit more quickly. We want to create a narrative for the position summaries in section 2, so the information in section 1 provides a framework for that. Section 2, though, is the main part of the mediacast. We review the list that we compiled in part 1. We're going to tell you who made the final squad and the preliminary squad. We're also going to try to predict the starters. So to do that, we examine each position and tell the story who has played in the role since the last Gold Cup or at that time. We also look at the lineups for the warm-up games, the recent games, to see if they give us any clues as to who will start. And in section 3, we will start with our spotlight review. That is a quick summary of the players who made the squad and our predicted starters. And we're also going to review surprise selections and non-selections and any new players, as well as updating on injuries. Let us begin then in section 1. Some team information there. So the squad, teams were allowed to bring 26 players to the Cup, but Curacao is bringing only 24. Most teams put out a 60-man preliminary squad, but Curaçao's was 43 players, so they had to cut 19 of those players to reach their final squad of 24. Let's look at the games over the period. So we did do this in more detail in part 1, and also in part 1 we looked in detail at the managerial situation, kind of a summary of that position. So here we're going to combine those two because again it sets up a framework for better understanding the position summaries in section 2. Reviewing formations will also help with that. So we will take a quick look at formations, but a bit more quickly than we did in part 1. So we begin here with manager Remco Vicentini in charge. And well, he was supposed to lead them through the Gold Cup in June of 2023, but the fact that he didn't get them there cost him his job. So he was let go after the Gold Cup, and interim manager Dean Gorey took over and led them through the 2023-24 Nations League group stage games. That was 4 games in September and October 2023. They didn't reach the finals of that, so had no CONCACAF business in November or in March. So Curacao just played 2 friendlies in November and didn't reconvene until the following June. However, before that, they did find their new manager. Curacao has a good knack of finding big-name managers, so they got Dick Advocat as their manager, and he came in before those World Cup qualifiers in June of 2024 and led them through that. Some CONCACAF teams played in the Copa America. but not Curacao. So their next set of games is the 2024-25 Nations League group stage. Those games, 6 games from September to November of 2024. Again, no CONCACAF business in March of 2025, so they just played a friendly there. And that's all we had up to the end of part 1. So that's all we had to go on. However, now we have a couple of more games having been played in early June, so we will come to those shortly. Let's take a look at formations here. So no really strongly favored formation by Curacao. 4-2-3-1 formation was used in 5 of their 15 games, a third of the games, or 33% of the time. Every other formation was used 2 times or less, so we won't really go into it. But what we will say is a kind of a summary of them, or an analysis of them. 80% of the games had a 4-man defense. That's 2 central defenders with a left back and a right back, and also 80% of the games had a single forward. So that would be 20% of the games with a 3-man defense, central defense, and 20% of the games with 2 forwards. Okay, and let's talk about the warm-up games that they played recently. Well, they weren't so much warm-up games, they were actual official games, World Cup qualifiers. The last 2 games, the first 2 having been played in June of 2024. And the first one here was on June 6th. I think it was June 6th. That's what I have written here. I thought it was actually June 7th. Doesn't matter. Curacao at home to, well, I keep saying Curacao, but I'm trying to train myself to pronounce it properly. Curacao. Curacao winning at home 4-0 over St. Lucia. So pretty convincing win there. And then a big game on June 10th. They faced Haiti. And wow, what a win. 5-1 away. They won 5-1 away on June 10th there. So great going. They pass into the next round of the World Cup qualifying. For our part, though, we're more interested in the lineups than in the scores. And so let's start using those in section 2. Our look at the candidates here. So as I said in section 1, we did do a detailed look at the manager situation. So we won't summarize that position. We'll just say here that Dick Advocat will be leading them through the cup. So we'll consider him as we would a selected player below. Let's move on to goalkeepers then. And we have a definite candidate in Eloy Room. He was selected for the final squad. 2 likely candidates, Trevor Dornbush and Nino Fancito. Trevor Dornbush was selected for the final squad. However, a bit of a surprise here, Nino Fancito not selected. So we'll tell you who was shortly. We have possible candidate Tyrick Bodak. And he was the one selected. Sorry, I thought we had more candidates to look at here. Tyrick Bodak then getting the nod ahead of Nino Fancito. Let's go back and summarize the position over the period. So for Curacao, we begin with the 2023 Nations League group stage games because they didn't play in the Gold Cup. Normally, we would start with the Gold Cup. It was Trevor Dornbush actually starting in the fall of 2023 and also played the first November 2023 friendly. However, he was not called up for the second friendly in November, which was an experimental match, but also wasn't called up for the June 2024 World Cup qualifiers. And he actually ceded his position to Eloy Room, who came back from an absence to resume his long-held position and Eloy Room started all remaining games, those in the fall of 2024. So after part one, we do have Eloy Room as the likely starter and Trevor Dornbush as the possible starter there. Let's see if the recent games change our mind. It is Eloy Room starting both of those games, so we are going to move him up to definite starter. We are predicting it. Eloy Room starting in the tournament, and possible starter Trevor Dornbush or backup keeper there. All right, on we go to defenders, and we do have a player we put as a versatile defender, actually coded as a right defender, but plays all over the defense, and it is Sherrell Floranis. And so we're going to see his name coming up. He was a definite candidate, and he was selected for the final squad. All right, let's move on to central defense, and we have a definite candidate in Jurian Gary, and he was selected for the squad. Likely candidate Roshan Val Aijma, also selected for the squad. No candidate at the possible level, but at the possible but unlikely, we have Cuco Martina, actually a veteran for the team who hasn't been involved very much recently. So we thought he was unlikely, but there he is, selected for the final squad. So a bit of a surprise there. Two players seemingly off the squad, Shurmar Martina and Dylan Timber, both of those not selected even for the preliminary squad. Okay, let's go back and look at the position over the recent period. Jurian Gary, who actually like our versatile defender Cheryl Floranis, is coded as a right back, but we move players to where they have played most over the period. Jurian Gary and defensive midfielder Leandro Bacuna were the starting pair in the 2023 Nations League group stage games. Bacuna actually took a red card in the second game, so Roshan von Aijma got the start, replacing him, and actually that became the main pairing there, Gary and van Aijma. It was a three-man defense in the June 2024 World Cup qualifiers. Gary was in the center, and he was flanked by Van Aijma. No, he was flanked, by our versatile defender, Cheryl Floranis, but Van Aijma was not called up for those games. In fact, it was two different players on the left of that three-man defense in each game. However, it did come back to Gary and Van Aijma for 4 of the 6 Nations League games from September to November. Floranis joined them in a 3-man defense in one of them, and in the other, Juric Carolina replaced Van Aijma for one game. So after part one, we considered Jurian Gary to be a definite starter, and Roshan van Aijma a likely starter, and then a possible starter, especially if they use a 3-man defense. We have our versatile defender, Cheryl Floranis. So that was our thinking after part one. Let's look at the warm-up games or the recent games and see if our thinking changes. In both of them, actually, we have what we predict. Jurian Gary and Rosha van Aijma starting in a 2-man central defense. So basically, our opinion is strengthened there. We're actually going to put Jurian Gary and Roshan van Aijma as definite starters, and possible starter Cheryl Floranis, we'll stick with him. Cuco Martina did come into the squad, but we think he's probably not going to be a starter there, despite him being the veteran that he is. We think he'll be used as a backup player there. Okay, let us go to the left back position, and we have no definite candidate here, but a player I just mentioned actually, Zurich, Carolina, as a likely candidate. However, in one of the surprises here, he was not selected for the final squad, just on the preliminary squad there. Rather, the possible candidate, Arjani Martha, was selected for the final squad. And we did have two players seemingly off the squad, Ayrton Statey and Shurandi Sambo. Neither of those selected even for the preliminary squad. So just one left back here, a bit thin on this side, but keep in mind they do have Sherelle Flannis kind of as a backup for a lot of the positions. But let's look at the position over the period. Well, it was Sherelle Flannis, even though he's coded as a right back. But 2/3 of the time, he moves back to central defence when it's a three-man defence. The left wing position, when it is a three-man defence, is played by a midfielder. No, they don't use three-man defense 2/3 of the time. I think 2/3 of the time when they have a three-man defense, he is one of the members. I think that's what it means. A few players have stepped in here at left back, most notably right back, also coded as a right back, Justin Ogenia, for 3 games in the fall of 2023. Otherwise, it has been players in single appearances, all of them out of position players, except for one game that our possible candidate here, our Johnny Martha, played in September of 2024. So the position is a bit unsettled, but we actually do think the likely starter would be Sherelle Floranis, our versatile defender there. But let's see if the recent games inform us. And what we do see is Cheryl Floranis starting both of those games as a left back. So we will kind of up the strength of our opinion and boldly call him a definite starter as a left back there. Okay, moving over to the right back position, we have a definite candidate in Joshua Bennett. Sorry, that is Joshua Brennett. And he was selected for the final squad. And no candidate at the likely level, but 2 at the possible level. The first of them, Tyreek Mercera, was selected for the final squad. The other one, the player we did mention just on the left side just now, is Justin Ogenia, and he was only selected for the preliminary squad there, didn't make the final cut. So Joshua Brennett and Tyreek Mercera, the right backs over here, keeping in mind that Gary and Floranis are both also coded as right backs. Okay, let's talk about the position over the period. It was actually defensive midfielder Nathan Markello playing all 4 of the 2023 Nations League group stage games in September and October of 2023, as well as the first November friendly. The second November friendly there was very experimental. And actually, it was Jurian Gary playing right back in that game. Joshua Brennett, making his debut, came in and was actually playing in a right winger position with a 3-man central defence in the June 2024 World Cup qualifiers. Cheryl Floranis played his only game in this position, even though he's coded as a right back. That was the first game of the 2024 Nations League group stage games, but it was Joshua Brennett in all games after that. That's 5 games up to November. And once again, pushing up to become a right winger in game 5. There, the first game in November. All right, so where does that leave us? We're going to call Joshua Brennett a definite starter there, based on what we said, and we're going to call defensive midfielder Nathan Markello a possible starter, or so that was our thinking after part one. But we now see that Nathan Markello was not called up, so we'll have to remove him from the list. Let's see what happened in the early June games here, the recent ones, and it was Joshua Brennett in both of those games. So we're going to revise our prediction to Joshua Brennett as a definite starter, but we don't nominate any candidate as a possible starter. So we'd have to see. Okay, let us move on. So that is it for the defense. We move on to the midfield and look at the defensive midfield. We do have one versatile midfielder to introduce, and that is Juninho Bacuna. So not to be confused with his brother Leandro Bacuna. And I should say the way I kind of separate them in my mind is I see Leandro as more of a defensive midfielder and Juninho as more of an attacking midfielder, although he is coded as a central midfielder there. Leandro Bacuna, we're going to see, is coded as a defensive midfielder, so that kind of helps me to remember. Anyway, Juninho Bacuna, a definite candidate there, and he was selected for the squad. Let's move on to defensive midfield. We have quite a few candidates here. The first one is Leandro Bacuna. He was also a definite candidate and was selected for the squad. The other definite candidate is Godfried Roemerato. And he was selected for the final squad too, Roemerato. We had two likely candidates as well, Kevin Felida and Livano Comenencia, and both of those were selected for the final squad as well. Two possible candidates, Nathan Markello and Shannon Carmelia. We already said that Nathan Markello did not make the final squad. Both he and Shannon Carmelia only making the preliminary squad there. The same is true of our possible but unlikely candidate, Vernon Anita, making the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. I just see in the graphics I forgot to denote the possible candidates there. So that's it. 4 defensive midfielders. That is Bacuna, Leandro Bacuna, Roemerato, Felida, and Comenencia. We're going to actually do all the midfield candidates and then go back and talk about predictions. So players coded as central midfielders, we actually have none at the definite or likely level, just Nicky Soren at the possible level, and he only made the preliminary squad there. We also had Rolly Bonavacchia as seemingly off the squad, and that seems to be the case as he was not selected even for the preliminary squad. For left midfielders, we only have one at the seemingly off the squad level. That's Michael Maria, and he was not selected even for the preliminary squad. And we go over to right midfielders. We'll just point out actually that Livano Comenencia is coded as a right midfielder, but we moved him to defensive midfield because that's where he's played the most. Otherwise, we have seemingly off the squad Shermaine Martina, and he was not selected even for the preliminary squad. So that is all the candidates in the midfield. And let's go back and look at our predicted starters, or we'll actually start with a summary of the position there. So really a jumble of formations and players in the 2023 Nations League group stage games. Kevin Felida and Godfried Roemerato played 3 of the 4 games each, and Vernon Anita and Juninho Bacuna each played 2, though Bacuna also appeared as an attacking midfielder. All four of those players, with the exception of Felida, appear in the first November 2023 friendly. But in the second friendly, an experimental match, we get two new faces appearing. We won't complicate things by mentioning them, though. We won't mention players who just appear once there. So anyway, Roemerato plays one of the defensive midfielders. No, he plays both of the June 2024 World Cup qualifiers, Roemerato, but his partner in each of them is new. And we're not going to mention them either. Well, we will mention the second one. It's Leandro Bacuna, who actually is returning from an absence, having not been selected for the previous 5 games. However, Leandro Bacuna goes on to start as defensive midfielder in 5 of the 6 Nations League group stage games there in the fall of 2024. So Roemerato is in for the September games, but he is replaced by Livano Comencia by November. Although throughout the period, Roemerato is still on the squad, just kind of losing his starting position. So after the end of part 1, our prediction was likely starters Leandro Bacuna alongside Livano Comencia, and then we considered Gottfried Roemerato a possible starter. Let's see if that held up in the most recent games, and it does actually. It's Bacuna and Comencia starting both of them. That's a 4-2-3-1 formation, so 2 defensive midfielders there. But yes, Roemerato was selected for the final squad, so we consider him probably the most likely backup player there. On to attacking midfield. We have no versatile attackers here, so we go straight to left attack. And in part 1, we kind of explained this position, but I won't bore you with that here. Let's go straight to the candidates, and we had a definite candidate in Kenji Gore, who was selected for the final squad. No candidates at the likely level, so we go down to the possible Jeremy Antonis and Ravian Rosario, and both of those players were named to the final squad. So Antonis and Rosario. At the seemingly off the squad level, we had Nigel Thomas. I've also seen his name given as Nigel Thomas, but not as off the team as we thought, because he was selected for the preliminary squad, just didn't make the final cut there. Okay, so 3 candidates over here. Let's look at the position over the period. And it was actually a left attacking winger position in 3 of the 4 2023 Nations League group stage games. And it was played by Kenji Gore, who's actually coded as a forward. And he also played the other game, not as a winger, but as a left attacking midfielder. Gore was also there in the first of the November 2023 friendlies, but keeping in mind that the second match was wildly experimentative, it was defensive midfielder Nathan Markello somehow playing in the period. Anyway, Gore continued in the June 2024 World Cup qualifiers, and actually earlier we mentioned that it was a midfield player playing as left winger in the 3-man defense formation there, and it was Juninho Bacuno playing in both matches there. He replaced Gore as a left attacking midfielder just in 1 of the 6 Nations League group stage games, and a bit of position shifting in this period. So we won't detail all of that, but we will say Gore basically remained the main player on this left side, left attacking quadrant of the field. So we're going to predict that Kenji Gore, coded as a forward, is the definite starter there. And we're going to say possible starter, the ubiquitous Juninho Bacuno. Juninho Bacuna. Kind of losing my vowels here. Okay, let's look at the warm-up games. We would expect Kenji Gore to be starting both of them, and he is. So that's what we expected. So we will stick with our prediction after part one. Kenji Gore as a definite starter, and Juninho Bacuna as a possible starter. Okay. We move on to right attackers, and we have a definite candidate here in Juro Margarita, who was selected for the final squad. Two likely candidates also, and both of them making it to the final squad, Brandley Kuas and Joshua Zimmerman. So things turning out to be quite predictable for Curacao here. Possible candidate Xander Severina just made the preliminary squad, didn't make the final cut. And then two candidates seemingly off the squad, Javaro Napomuceno, long serving for the national team there, but not even named to the preliminary squad here. We also have Tahith Chong. Not selected even for the preliminary squad. Okay, let's look at the position. Juro Margarita played the 2023 Nations League group stage games, but Brandley Kuas, Margarita played the first one. Brandley Kuas played the next three and the first November 2023 friendly, but actually Margarita and actually Xander Severina also were both injured for the November game, so there was really not much choice there. Those two, Margarita and Severina, shared the June 2024 World Cup qualifying games, as well as the 2024 Nations League group stage games in the fall. Severina actually seemed to challenge for the position starting both of the September 2024 matches, but Margarita seemingly winning out there, starting the last four of those and the March 2025 game, emphasizing his claim with 4 goals in the first November match against St. Martin there. So in terms of starters after part one, we figured Juro Margarita was a likely starter. We weren't quite ready to commit to definite because Xander Severina we still see as a possible starter. Let's look at the warm-up games there, and in both of them it is Margarita as the starting right attacker. So now we are going to commit to Margarita as the definite starter, and Xander Severina more as a kind of a backup player there. Okay, on we go to the central attacking position, and this position was used in about a third of the games, especially in the fall 2024 Nations League group stage games. And I should say they used a 4-2-3-1 formation in both of the warm-up matches as well. So this position fairly prevalent. However, it's generally played by out-of-position players because we don't have any at the definite, likely, or possible level candidates. We just have Jason Vicario at the possible but unlikely level. He did actually make the preliminary squad there, as did our seemingly off-the-squad Elson Hui on the preliminary squad there, but the other seemingly off the squad player, Regino Sicilia, not making the preliminary squad there. But let's look at who played the position, because as I said, they did use it. At the end of part one, our prediction was, we didn't do this on the video, we just kind of just our thinking was that versatile midfielder Juninho Bacuna would be in the position if they used it, and they did in the warm-up games, and it was Juninho Bacuna starting both of those games as a central attacking midfielder. So now we'll move him to a definite starter, again with the provision that the position is not always used there. Okay, on we go to the forward line. We have no secondary strikers to deal with, so we go to the main forwards, and we have a definite candidate in Rangelo Janga, and he was selected for the final squad. We go down to, oh no, we have a likely candidate in Gervain Castanier, and he also was selected for the squad. And now we go down to possible but unlikely candidates. There are two of them. The first of them, Jurgen Locadia, was selected for the final squad, but the second one, Gino Van Kessel, possible but unlikely, but not even selected for the final squad. In fact, the player seemingly off the squad, Jafar Arias, was selected for the preliminary squad. So not completely off the squad there. And that's what we have. Janga, Castanier, and Locadia as the three candidates selected. Let's look at the position over the period. We said in 80% of the games it was a single forward. It was actually three different players in the September games of the 2023 Nations League group stage. Right winger Brandley Kuas and Jural Margarita, also coded as a right winger. Those two, along with the ubiquitous versatile midfielder Juninho Bacuna, all lining up as forwards there. However, it was Rangelo Janga for both October games and the first November 2023 friendly. Again, the second November 2023 friendly was experimentative, and that's really well illustrated by central defender Roshan von Eijma playing as a forward, and then defensive midfielder Godfried Roemerato joining him in a two-man forward line. So very experimental. Anyway, going forward, Janga retained the position for the two 2024 World Cup qualifiers in June there, and the first game of the 2024 Nations League group stage in September. But even before Janga's injury in the last three games, Gervain Castanier started to dominate the position and did so even more so, playing three of the last five games as centre forward. And then we had left winger Jeremy Antonis and versatile midfielder Juninho Bacuna, each starting one of those fall games. So Bacuna quite versatile there. Castanier also played the March 2025 Gold Cup qualifier. So to us, it looks like Gervain Castanier has moved ahead of Rangelo Janga, although an injury to Janga may have played a role in that. So we will put Rangelo Janga as a possible starter, and also tempted to put Juninho Bacuna as a backup player there, because he played in the position more than once. So we'll add him to the list there. And look at the recent games in June of 2025 here. And in both games, it is Castanier lining up as a forward. So he does seem to have seized the position there. So we're going to move him from likely up to definite. But we'll keep the others the same. Rangelo Janga as a possible, Juninho Bacuna as a backup for the position. All right. That brings us to the end of section 2 and our look at the candidates. So let's go move into section 3. And here we welcome listeners to the short version of the mediacast. We're racing through a review of what we covered in sections 1 and 2, well, mainly section 2 of the full version. So those who listen to that, this will be a review. But for those who didn't, we're going to go back over the list we compiled, race through it in our spotlight review is what we call it. Our spotlight review. So we begin with manager Dick Advocat, and we'll consider him as having been a selected candidate, leading them through the tournament there. For goalkeepers, we had definite candidate Eloy Room, and he made the final squad. Two likely candidates, Trevor Dornbush and Nino Fancito. Trevor Dornbush was selected, but surprisingly, Nino Fancito was not. Instead, possible candidate Tyrek Bodak was selected for the squad. So we have Room, Dornbush, and Bodak here. And our predictions are definite starter Eloy Room and possible starter Trevor Dornbush. And we kind of justified those decisions in part 2. Or in section 2, but we won't go through those explanations again. Instead, we'll move on to defenders. We start with a versatile defender, Sherel Floranas, who is a definite candidate and who was selected for the final squad. Let's move on to central defenders. So that means Floranas' name kind of pops up all over the defense there. For central defenders, definite candidate Jurian Gary and likely candidate Roshan van Aijma. Both of those selected for the final squad. And so was possible but unlikely candidate Cuco Martina kind of coming back into the squad there. And generally, we won't deal with players at the unlikely or seemingly off the squad level. Unless we have reason to, like Cuco Martina being selected. We don't think Cuco Martina is going to be a starter, though. Our predictions are definite starters, Jurian Gara and Roshan van Aijma pairing there. And then we would say our versatile defender, Cheryl Floranes, coming in, especially if it's a three-man defense, which they sometimes go with. On to left backs, and we have no definite candidate. We had a likely candidate in Jurich, Carolina, but he surprisingly was not selected either, just named to the preliminary squad there. Rather, our possible candidate, Arjani Martha, made it to the final squad. So just one candidate left back selected here. And some of these candidates, if you're watching the YouTube, you'll see that they're coded with different positions, like Jurich Carolina is coded as a central midfielder. But we put them here because, well, if we put them here, that means they primarily started here in this position over the period. Anyway, we landed on definite starter, neither of these players, but the versatile defender, Cheryl Floranas. We think is definitely going to be starting on the left here. Moving over to the right, we had a definite candidate in Joshua Brennett. He was selected. No likely candidates, but possible candidate Tyreek Mercera, also selected. But our second possible candidate, Justin Ogenia, just making the preliminary squad there. And in terms of our predicted starters, we think Joshua Brennett is a definite starter there. Okay, moving on to the midfield. We also have a versatile midfielder there, so keep your ears out because he'll come up all over the place, actually more in the attacking end of the field, truth be told. It's Juninho Bacuna. He's a definite candidate here, and he was selected for the final squad. And we move on to defensive midfielders. Definite candidates, the brother of Juninho Bacuna, Leandro Bacuna, also a definite candidate and also selected. And also another definite candidate, Godfried Roemerato, also selected for the final squad. We have two likely candidates here, Kevin Valida and Livano Comanencia, and both of those were also selected for the final squad. However, our two possible candidates, Nathan Markello and Shannon Carmelia, as well as possible but unlikely Vernon Anita, all three of those chosen for the preliminary squad but not making the final cut. Before we talk about predicted starters here, we'll just go through the rest of the midfield. Players coded as central midfielders. We have none at the definite or likely level, but we have Nicky Surin at the possible level. He only made the preliminary squad there. Left and right midfielders, we have no candidates at the possible level or above, so we'll just go straight to our predictions there. For defensive midfield, almost definite, but not quite. So we said likely Leandro Bacuno and Livano Comenencia. Those are the ones we think will start. And a possible starter, Godfried Roemerato. I've been struggling with this name. Godfried Roemerato. Okay, we go to the attacking end of the field. No versatile attackers here. Actually, Juninho Bacuno could be put here as a versatile attacker. Anyway, we go to left attackers. We have a definite candidate in Kenji Gore, actually coded as a forward, but playing over here, and he was selected. No candidates at the likely level, but two possible candidates, Jeremy Antonis and Ravian Rosario, both of those selected for the final squad. And that's all we'll introduce there. Let's go to our predictions. We have a definite starter in Kenji Gore. We think he will start. And possible starter, Juninho Bacuno. He's really a possible starter in any of the positions we'll talk about from here on forward. Maybe not a right attacker, though. For right attackers, we have a definite candidate in Juro Margarita. And two likely candidates, Brandy Kuos and Joshua Zimmerman, all three of those selected for the final squad. Possible candidate, though, Xander Severina, was only selected for the preliminary squad, did not make the final cut. And so we have, as a definite starter, Juro Margarita. And, well, we had as a possible starter, Xander Severina, but I guess we should get rid of that because he didn't make the squad. So we'll just stick with definite starter, Juro Margarita over here. Central attackers, they do use the position a bit, but not all the time. If they do use it, it's Juninho Bacuno in the position. And that's what we're going to go with. We don't have any candidates at the possible level or above coded as central attackers over here. That's why our versatile midfielder, Juninho Bacuno, is playing the role when he's there, when they use it. On to forwards, and we skip secondary strikers because they don't have any, and go directly to the main forwards. We have a definite candidate in Rangelo Janga, and a likely candidate in Gervain Castanier. Both of those making the squad, although we did see over the course of the period that Castanier seemed to take the starting spot there. We'll talk about that when we get to predictions, but we have a couple of more candidates to talk about. Well, none at the possible level, a couple at the possible but unlikely level, but one of them made it to the final squad, and that is Jurgen Locadia. Making it to the final squad there. We won't talk about the others in this roundup. And that brings us to the end of our Spotlight review. However, we do have more business in section 3 to talk about, a review of the surprises. So surprise inclusions include central defender Cuco Martina. We had him as possible but unlikely, but he did make the final cut there. And then we also have possible but unlikely Junior Locadia making the squad. He is a forward there. For surprise, oh, sorry, we forgot to do notable non-selection. Those are surprise inclusions. So let's go back a step and do notable non-selections here. The first one is goalkeeper Nino Fancito. We had him as a likely candidate, but he was not selected. And the only other one is Jurich Carolina, coded as a central midfielder, but playing as a left back during this period. Also a likely candidate, but not selected for the final squad. Both of those on the preliminary squad, but not making the final cut. Okay, we go to new players, but actually don't have any to introduce here. So all of the players that were selected had been kind of in our soccer files. And so we go to injuries, our last order of business here. And we'll just review what we covered at the end of part one. Rangelo Janga was injured, as we actually talked about in section two. But even at the end of part one, we knew that he had recovered from his injury, and the fact that he was selected for the squad kind of evidence of that. So Rangelo Janga recovered from injury there. The other concern on our list was Joshua Brennett, and at the end of part one, his situation was unknown. It's not an injury, it's just this curious comment on his international page which said no eligibility until June 30th, 2025, Qatar Stars League. So maybe not an international concern, but a club concern. Anyway, Brennett was selected for the final squad. So we think that comment is not relevant to his Curacao participation. So we will say Joshua Brennett recovered from injury, or that concern is off the plate. In terms of new injuries that have happened since part one, there are none. So Curacao looking quite healthy and lucky there. And so we are able to finish up here. And we do have a bit of closing business in the outro. So we want to say that it'll be possible or probably likely that there will be some changes between now doing this mediacast and the start of the tournament. There's always a few players who are replaced at the last minute due to injury or some other reason. So we want to be able to introduce those changes. So we're going to do all teams at the same time in one bonus media cast that covers any of the changes that happened between the time we did the media cast on that team and the start of the tournament. All right, stay tuned for that, and we hope these two media casts on Curacao make them more interesting for you to watch. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.